I wrote a book years ago called Inspiration, using the two words inspire, inspirado, inspire, in spirit. And there was a great teacher on this planet a couple of thousand years ago named Patanjali, and he said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, that all of your thoughts break their bonds, your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world.
Perfect.
And then he said, and this is what I want to ask you about, he said, dormant forces, when you're inspired, dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you've ever dreamt yourself to be. It's almost as if you discover yourself to be God or Source or the Tao or Divine Mind or whatever name we place on this source energy that you speak of and speak to us from.
The way we've been defining that most recently is that when you wake up in the morning, you have the potential of being in that highest frequency, because while you slumber, your point of attraction, the momentum of your point of attraction stops. So when you first wake up, before you begin thinking thoughts of what went wrong yesterday or what you have to do today, you're in your greatest potential of that pure positive energy. So if you can focus there and allow a little momentum to get going, what happens is it isn't something that just happens, it's something that you focus yourself into being. But when you focus yourself into that, you tune in, is the best way of describing it. You tune in to that source energy consciousness who has always been aware of everything you're doing, but there's a big difference when you tune into it and you consciously are aware of it. In other words, source is there for everyone all the time. We don't need to talk you into that. We're always there. But when you know it, when you're not doing that thing you do that is preventing you from knowing that, that's when you have those wonderful moments. And you can do that all the time.
In the middle of the
and they call that the master, but all of you do it. It's just the mastery of focus is what it is.
I wake up every night around 3 o'clock in the morning. And there was a great poet, his name was Rumi, many, many years ago. He said, the morning breeze has secrets to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. Do not go back to sleep. And many of the books that I've written when I've been awakened, and there's something, what is it? What is it that awakens me? It's like I can almost tell you the exact time. It's like, because in a film I did years ago called The Shift, they show a clock, it's 3:13 a.m., almost to the second, every single night. There's something, is that angels? Is that divine source? Is that someone saying, this is your purpose, this is the time, there's no distractions?
The thing we most want to say is that we're with you saying that all the time. So what's interesting to us is that that's the time that you decide to listen.
Right. But there's nobody else around to distract me.
And that's the important conversation to have. So what is it about that time? What is it that's happening there that makes you more resonant, that makes you more receptive? And it is that the momentum of your thought has stopped. So there is no contradictory vibration going on within you. So you're more likely to hear. Esther has been saying to herself, when she awakens like that, she will say, am I awake? Because if I'm awake, I am going to get up. And so it's conscious awareness of that high frequency vibration. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. But I find for me, the most creative moments are that middle of the night time when...
Well, think about what that is. When you think a thought for as little as 17 seconds, law of attraction will bring another thought like it to it. So momentum begins.
What do you mean? Law of attraction will bring, what is law of attraction?
Let's say that you wake up in the morning and rather than finding that clear space that is potentially there for you to find, instead, as soon as you wake up, you remember the trouble that you had yesterday. And you think about being at work, and you think about the dilemma, and you think about the discomfort, and you think about the discord. And as you focus for as little as 17 seconds, more thoughts like that will join it. So Another 17 seconds, more momentum still. Another 17 seconds, more momentum still, until you cross something as short as the 68-second mark. You have lost your window of alignment with Source. Doesn't mean, Esther said to us the other day, because we said, well, you can always begin again tomorrow. You can always begin again tomorrow. And Esther said, I refuse to accept that I have to wait all the way until tomorrow to get back on my high-flying disc. I can do it. I know I can do it by focusing. It's just so much easier. So we like to talk about law of attraction because it is the vibrational engine that manages everything. And we can't talk about law of attraction without talking about momentum, because there is a momentum in thought. And if you think a thought long enough, it becomes a strong habit of thoughts, what you call beliefs. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking. So sometimes you have beliefs that do not serve you. But when you first awaken, those beliefs are quiet enough that you can find a fresh one that comes from Source, that is about who you really are and what you really know.
Is the reverse of that if you awaken and you have a very positive thought? That is, I'm going to heal myself.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. Once you get that momentum going.
But like the 17-second rule apply to that as well?
It applies to everything. And the rule of thumb is when you acknowledge that law of attraction is, whether you like it or not, and you acknowledge that it is responding to the vibration that you are offering right now, and therefore momentum will get going. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, if the thought felt good, we'd think it. We'd think more about it. We'd talk about it. We'd write it down. We would discuss it with others. We would deliberately encourage that momentum. But if it's an uneasy thought, if it feels uncomfortable, then we would do our best to generalize it. The more specific you become in a thought, the more momentum. The more general you become in a thought, the slower the momentum. Esther remembers San Francisco driving to the top of one of those, what she called ridiculous hills. She couldn't believe that people were actually driving on those hills. And so we said, well, imagine perching your car at the top of one of those hills, take it out of gear, take the brake off, and just for fun, just to see what happens, nudge it a little bit from behind. Well, you know what will happen, and if you come to your senses, you will step out in front of it and let it bump up against you, and you will stop that unwanted momentum. But you would not want to be at the base of that hill stopping that unwanted momentum. So your thoughts are the same way. When you get the hang of this, when you begin to realize that every thought is vibration and that law of attraction is responding to every thought, and the thought is going to increase, the only question is it one you want to increase? Because it's going to increase. Law of attraction insists that it does.
Can you have a thought, like I talk a lot about the I am discourses. I am as the name of Source, another name for Source. If you are feeling weak, but you have a thought saying, I am strong, I mean, that's one of the lines from the book of Joel. Let the weak man say, I am strong. If you continuously say, I am strong, or I am well, or I am healed, or I am wealthy, or I am positive, or I am
It makes
loving.
sense. It makes sense, but there is a effort factor, a backfiring factor that sometimes every subject is really two subjects, wanted and absence of it. So if you are feeling not strong and you say, I am strong, which end of the stick are you activating? And what we've noticed is the more effort you are applying, usually you're trying to overcome what you've really got going on vibrationally with words. And instead of it working the way you want it to, it works in reverse, because when you're trying really hard, it's an indicator that you're trying to use your words and your actions and your affirmations to compensate for vibration that you didn't get started off on the right foot. We think affirmations are wonderful, but we would make sure that we are feeling really good when we affirm, because the universe doesn't hear what you say. The universe hears what you mean.
It also responds to how you feel, doesn't it?
Well, that's right. That's how you know what you mean. So if you're feeling weak and you're proclaiming that you're strong, the universe is just, and the louder you're saying it, the more the universe is hearing you demanding something that you do not feel. It's trying too hard. For a while, we were offering an analogy that we see you, it's like you go down to the river's edge with your canoe and you put it in the water and you point it upstream and you paddle really hard because it feels like to get something done, there should be some struggle involved. But law of attraction is responding. Law of attraction is the path of least resistance. And if you can accept that you are source energy and that there is a trajectory of ease and least resistance, and you can feel when you're on that trajectory and you can feel when you get off of it. And sometimes the more you proclaim that you're on it, the more you're really off of it just trying to get on it. And it's better just to take a nap.